I think that you have to jump in the pool. Like entrepreneurship, you can't read a book and just take a program and listen to a podcast and just, okay, I've nailed it. You have to get in there. And honestly, what's happening is you're learning yourself. You're learning your capacity. You're learning what's my risk tolerance? Like all of these factors that play a role that you have to learn about yourself. And I'm 15 years in the game and I'm still learning every single day. Sometimes people say, oh, do you still do personal? I'm like, are you kidding me? I have to do more now than I used to, because stuff comes up. And especially as you navigate seasons, becoming a wife, becoming a mom. And that was a big shift for me because I was naive going in, nothing's going to change. And then when I had kids, it's like my whole toolbox of how I got stuff done was out the window. So I had to build a new toolbox based on this new season that I was in. And there's lots of learning that comes with that. So no, I think you have to jump in. You have to figure it out as you go. You can earn and learn. You don't have to learn and then wait and make money. You can make money at the same time, but it's constant learning, constant growth, constant discovery about yourself.
Yeah. Welcome, fellow entrepreneurs and goal getters, to Entrepreneurial Elevation, Unleashing Greatness Within, with myself, your host, Kelly Beveridge, and today, my special guest, Helen Marie Fox. I'm super excited to have her here. Helen and I have worked in the past together in the network marketing industry, and really, what I like to call personal development as a paycheck. And so we've seen each other grow and flourish, and I always loved her and her husband Bola because they were just so professional and they were always creating results, yet they were just so approachable and fun to be around at the same time. And I just was always wanting to be her friend. And so I'm grateful to have her on today. She is a performance coach and mentor. She has been running a multiple six-figure business for quite some time. She's been an entrepreneur and business owner for 15 to 16 years. And I'm excited to talk to her today because we're going to talk about how to scale your business to multiple six figures. Yet what I love is we're going to talk about how to earn this kind of income, full-time income with part-time work effort. And I think that this is an exciting topic, and also how to do it without spending hours a day on social media. So she's got a lot of great wisdom to share, and she's a living example herself. She's doing this while being married and having 3 kiddos, I think under the age of 6. Helen, you can correct me if I'm wrong. And so she's just a great example of how to create this harmony in your life. And so, Helen, thanks so much for being on the podcast today. I'm so grateful to have you here.
Yeah, you're welcome. Such a pleasure to be with you. It's always great to connect.
Helen, what I would love to do, maybe let's go back. I think it would make sense for the listeners to hear a bit about your story before we talk about some principles and success principles and guidance on how those listening can scale their business. How did you get into entrepreneurship yourself? Because you were working, I believe, a corporate job making 6 figures, and you chose to exit that job and go and build your own business. So let's go back to that decision.
Yeah, such a long time ago. And I think that I graduated from Syracuse University. I had a business degree, and I think what everybody has, the idea of success is let's get that 6-figure income. And so I was really searching for the freedom, but I thought that the 6 figures was going to give me time freedom, financial freedom, and the ability to do what I wanted to do. And so I started out working as a personal trainer at a big organization in Canada. And I secured that income. I had the full-time secure income plus some side hustles going. And I was really happy with what I was making financially, but I did not have the freedom. Like I was up 5 a.m, working all day, constantly thinking about work, still working late into the night. And I really didn't enjoy it. I didn't feel fulfilled. I didn't feel appreciated. I felt like I couldn't even do my own workouts. Like I wasn't present when I was with family and friends. And so I made the decision, this is back in 2008, 2009, to quit. And I literally remember walking home one day saying, there's just no amount of money that somebody could pay me for this lifestyle. This isn't what I thought I signed up for. And so that was back in the middle of the recession when everybody told me I was crazy. So about 15, 16 years ago. And that's when I started my coaching business. And I had a goal to just serve people. Like I wasn't even thinking about the money at that time. And that business grew really quickly. But first, a couple of months into starting, as I was sharing with you, I had a knee injury. I tore my ACL, my MCL, and my meniscus. So talk about like obstacles popping up in your way. I had to make a decision, right? What do I do? How do I figure this out? Do I go back to corporate lifestyle? And that's when I hired my first coach. And that made me a huge believer in the coaching industry and personal development. And I started to map it out. What do I want personally, professionally? And I just went all in. I bet on myself, really. And that business ended up going to six figures in the first year. And we've evolved and shifted throughout the years and hired a team and grew the client roster. And here we are, right? 15 years later. And I've had to learn along the way. And now I'm doing it with a hubby and three young kiddos, 6, 4, and 2. Actually, my 2-year-old just turned 3. So it's a full home. And as my husband's an entrepreneur as well. So we navigate ebb and flow. But yeah, I'm very thankful. I'm very blessed.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Like a long story in a nutshell, yet I love what you're sharing because I think it's so relevant for nowadays for people who I think a big value for a lot of people is security, right? Myself too, myself included, yet at the same time allowing ourselves the ability to take responsible risks if we're not fulfilled or not happy with what we're doing. And I think giving ourselves permission to do that. Talk about that for a sec, the courage to make that decision, because you said what you said, it wasn't a popular opinion at the time. I'm not sure if it really ever is when somebody does a drastic change and follows their heart. If close friends and family and people around them aren't used to that. As we say, when we change, usually it impacts other people because they're wanting us to stay the same. So talk about that courageous decision for the people who are listening, who are maybe in a similar space. They're tired, they're burnt out, they're not fulfilled, they're not making the kind of money they want to make, and they're having their spidey senses saying, like, what else? There's got to be something more to this.
Yeah, I think courage is all about vulnerability and just really facing the options, I think. And I'm thankful I grew up with entrepreneurs. So my parents are on business. And I also am thankful that it was not the norm to have a job in our home. And I'm really thankful for that because I think that foundation gave me that extra little fire under my butt that like, okay, worst case scenario, it doesn't work out. You can go get a job but I think that the courage piece is about really being honest with yourself and recognizing like, is this the life that I want for myself? Do I want to keep going down this path? And for me, that was a very clear no. I'm like, I can't do this for 40 years. Like, I can't. Like, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be something out there. And I was really willing to do whatever it took to find that in that first year. But I think it starts with honesty and just really not deceiving yourself. Oh, it's okay. The money's good, or this will pass. It's no, this is not okay. And so for me, it was about really just being honest with myself on what I was willing to deal with and what I wasn't.
I love that. And you know what I love too is you talked about when you first got into your career, you were looking for the 6 figures, right? And then you realize, okay, and what's funny now is you're actually earning multiple 6 figures and coaching other people to do the same thing. Yet talk about the fact that it wasn't actually what you discovered was the money that you were searching for, right? It was more what the byproduct of that money could bring you. And so chat about that shift in mindset when you're in a career or you're starting to set a business that, yes, of course, we all have money goals, yet ultimately it's the byproduct of what we're looking for with that money. And you use the word freedom, right? And so maybe chat about how your values shifted as you started to realize, oh, wow, I'm chasing, for lack of better words, the wrong thing.
Yeah. And I think I remember speaking with certain clients early in my career, like when I was personal training before I started my business. And some of these clients, it was like a friend of theirs would pass away and they couldn't go to the funeral because it wasn't next of kin or something like. And I remember these moments of realizing, okay, that I got to figure this out. I have to. There's got to be a way for me to do this. And I think that it's a really hard place for people to be in because it's easy to get caught up in what society tells us. And I think money is very relevant. I don't go the other way where it's like, oh, money doesn't mean anything. I'm like, oh no, like we do need to be aware that this is the world we live in and we do need to make money because money doesn't necessarily make us happy, but it gives us choices and it gives us freedom. And so it's finding that delicate balance of recognizing and respecting money and business and recognizing we do have to figure this out, but also not allowing ourselves to get caught up in the whole money is everything. Because I think we all know if we don't have our health, if our relationships are broken, if our kids don't know, we're not connected to our kids, then nothing matters on the career piece and the financial piece. At the end of the day, we want to have that relationship with our children, with our spouse, significant other, our friends, our family. Like that's very important.
Yeah. As you're speaking, it's interesting because I'm thinking you and I are in similar spaces where we've learned all these lessons through experience, right? Of like putting all the time and energy into something, like going through this process, like really looking at our values and hey, is where we're spending our time, effort, and energy, is it aligned with what we truly want? Looking at how do we create this harmony in our life with the things you just talked about, like family, health, relationships, career, making money. And so I'm curious your thoughts. Do you think is that something that has to be learned through experience over time? Or can people come out of the gates when they're just getting started and understand how to have their values in place and design their life? Like you talked a little bit about being the fireman, right, or the architect, like design our life from the beginning, or do you have to go through it a bit and figure it out? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think that you have to jump in the pool. Like entrepreneurship, you can't read a book and just take a program and listen to a podcast and just, okay, I've nailed it. You have to get in there. And honestly, what's happening is you're learning yourself. You're learning your capacity. You're learning what's my risk tolerance? Like all of these factors that play a role that you have to learn about yourself. And I'm 15 years in the game and I'm still learning every single day. Sometimes people say, oh, do you still do personal? I'm like, are you kidding me? I have to do more now than I used to, because stuff comes up and especially as you navigate seasons. Oh, becoming a wife. Oh, becoming a mom. And that was a big shift for me because I was naive going in, oh, nothing's going to change. And then when I had kids, it's like my whole toolbox of how I got stuff done was out the window. So I had to build a new toolbox based on this new season that I was in. And there's lots of learning that comes with that. So no, I think you have to jump in. You have to figure it out as you go. You can earn and learn. You don't have to learn and then wait and make money. You can make money at the same time, but it's constant learning, constant growth, constant discovery about yourself.
Yeah, I love that. I know I used to always say to people, you can't read a book about swimming and then go jump in the deep end and you don't make it out alive most of the time. You got to be in the game. I totally agree. And you did that. And then now you are running this successful business and you're helping other people do it. So let's chat about that. I still want to weave a little bit of your story in there because I think what's really powerful is that you have created a lifestyle where you are working part-time and you do get to focus on a lot of things that really matter to you, your family, your kiddos, your health, your spouse. I'm sure there's other things in there as well, while still earning full-time income and continuing to grow. So I think that mindset is really important as well. So I kind of shift to scaling the business. But the question I have first is talk about that mindset, right? Because I think most people might not think that's possible. Oh, what? You're just working part-time and earning full-time income while your business is still growing and raising 3 kiddos that are really small. So talk about the mindset that, first of all, you have to decide that that's possible.
Yeah, it's expanding the mind. And I had to get around people who were doing it because you can't believe it's possible for you if you haven't seen examples of this. And I remember probably when I was in my 3 under 4 season, and one of the coaches I was working with, who was one of the coaches that inspired me to support other coaches and consultants. I remember telling him one day, because he didn't have any kids, he wasn't married. And I said, do you know a female who's running a 7-figure operation, like with kids, with a husband? I'm like, I love you. This is helpful, but I need to see more of these examples. And he's like, oh, yeah, this person, that person. So I had to get extremely intentional about seeking out the right mentors. I've worked with a lot of coaches, a lot of different mentors, and I have great things to say about them all because you learn something different from everybody. It starts with you, right? It's your mindset. But I had to create my own style, right? Because this coach might say, hey, do this. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't work for me as a mom of 3 kids under 4. That's not working. And there were certain things that on paper didn't look like a smart decision for my business, but I would do it because of my relentless commitment to, okay, I'm not going to work a 15-hour day. So this makes sense on paper and vice versa, right? So I had to really get extremely intentional, I would say, and committed. And I have mentors for days to help me with that. I remember somebody saying, you just have to make decisions. You have to say you're not willing to work X amount of hours and you're not willing to sacrifice your income. You your business is still going to grow. So I made some very clear decisions, and that supported me. And then you know how it works, right? The mind starts to figure it out. So that was really where it started: intentionality and decisiveness.
Oh my gosh, I love that, right? It's like getting clear on what you want truly, right? Setting what the boundaries are going to be in the way that you want it to look like. And I do believe that we're in control. We design our life, we design our schedule, right? And then surrounding yourself with people who had what you wanted and learning from them, I believe is crucial as well. So yeah, that's awesome advice. Okay, so I love that. And then so you're starting to do that. You're now building your business. You're doing it part-time, mom of three. And now you're going to start to help other people scale and grow their business. And I know you have a philosophy, I believe it would be called the freedom path, right? With helping people get to their six-figure coaching businesses. Can you chat? Because what I love about you, and I'm curious to pick your brain about, is you really have this belief, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you don't have to be on social media doing a whole bunch of posts all day long, spending a whole bunch of money on ads, and utilizing this new technology of social media to grow your business. Obviously, it can be and it is effective, and a lot of people are doing that. Yet you've really built your business through organic connection and authenticity of being yourself and attracting the right people into your business and into your life. And so I'm really curious to pick your brain about this. So can you talk about your freedom path philosophy?
Yeah, I think that, and I love social media and run ads in the business, but I did the math. It was only 5% of the time we've been in business. We've had ads turned on, and I will turn them on again at times. And I want to just give the disclaimer, like I'm not against any of that stuff. And I think it's great. And in fact, my business would probably be a lot bigger if we were doing more ads and social media. It's just, I've never really devoted a lot of energy there. And I think that because we've had referrals that continue to come in over the last 15 years, I've been able to work with people who are like our dream clients. I love our clients, not needing to rely on, oh my gosh, I have to turn ads on, or oh my gosh, post twice today. And I think that that's something I'm very thankful for, because I don't want to be a slave to my phone or some exact strategy. But to your question, I'm really big on leadership and branding first, and then we can move into the service component, and then the money comes later. And so when I say the brand, I think the mistake a lot of people make is they think brand is number of followers or your colors or your logo or how does the website look. But your brand is how you show up, and it's how people perceive you. And so your brand, ultimately, like your mindset will override any strategy. And I'm sure you've seen it too. People who follow a really good strategy, but if their belief and their confidence in themselves isn't there, or they're doubting themselves, the strategy will not work. Like any day of the week, it could be the best strategy. Or if they're tired or they're exhausted and they can't execute properly. Whereas if you flip that and somebody has the right mindset and belief in themselves, and they're putting the daily work in, habits, just inner work on themselves, and the strategy is not very good, they will make it to the other side. And I feel like I'm that example, and I'm not perfect by any means, but even back in my early days, my strategy was horrible for the business. I didn't really have the knowledge I do now about business, and yet I was still able to scale because I was committed. I was serving people. I was putting myself out there. It didn't necessarily need to be social media. So there's certain success and business principles that have to be at play. But the first one for me is about leadership of self and your brand around how people perceive you. People feel your energy, right?
Yeah.
And it has to be dialed in first. They'll feel if you're pushy, if you're trying to close, they feel that. We've all been in those situations. And so that's the first piece. You want me to keep going?
Yeah. No, I love it. Please do.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the first piece around just like really showing up, which comes down to your mindset, your habits, all the things. Then we move into the service component. And ultimately, this is being able to, yes, have an offer that makes sense, have messaging that's dialed in to your person, right? We can't be all over the place. We need to be very clear on who is that dream client? Who do we want to work with and who do we not want to work with? We're not going to work with just everybody with a credit card. We want to be very clear on what problem can I solve in the market. And if that's very clear, you can really attract, and I don't even like to use that word because there's so much work involved too. You can identify who do I want to work with, and you can speak into that person. And ultimately, you can provide a really great result if you focus on solving that problem or supporting them in solving that problem. And I think that's the piece where people get into, oh my gosh, I need leads and all this stuff. And we do need leads. to keep a business going, but it has to be done with that foundation piece first so that we can actually serve. And then we have to show up, right? On the other side for the client. We can't
Mhm.
just the sale. Now we have a responsibility to make sure there's value. And ultimately, I think in business, I think you and I have talked about this, but when you solve a problem in business, you earn the right to solve a bigger problem in business. And so that's where the client renewals come in and the referrals come in, and people start seeing you as somebody who can help them. And you're actually adding value. And I feel like that's a good segue into the last piece, which is the money, the prosperity. I call it the lead, serve, prosper, is that when we're on the sales side, it doesn't have to feel pushy. It doesn't have to feel, oh my gosh, let me manipulate you. Let me use a fear tactic to get you to sign on the dotted line. That stuff doesn't feel good. So when we have those two steps dialed in, we can sell with class. We can just make it about, this is a transaction. It's just an exchange of value. So it's like we take the energy around sales and just pull it right down, which I think for a lot of new coaches, consultants, new entrepreneurs, there's just this weird energy around, oh my gosh, like I've got to make a sale, where ultimately it's just, hey, it's a conversation. Could be over DMs, could be on the phone, could be in person. And it's just, can you help me? Sure. And here's the offer. And
Yeah.
so be comfortable making those offers. And so there's a lot of money mindset work that comes there too.
I love that. I love everything that you're sharing. I'm coaching people right now too, and I agree with you so much on everything you just shared. And just to share it in maybe different language, you talked about branding, right? Being your authentic self. What I've noticed through years of coaching people is people may have this goal to be a successful business person earning X amount of dollars, yet it's so true. Their image and their identity does not match that goal. And it doesn't matter how much you do, how hard you work, if that image is not matching who you want to be, your belief in yourself, your confidence, if you don't feel like you're a successful businesswoman, you're going to constantly struggle and come up against it to have that breakthrough to get to that next level, right? Earn that kind of income or be that kind of success that you want to be. So I totally agree with that. And I love that you talked about just obviously having the offer meet their needs. And that's how the conversation becomes easier. You and I know a term called enrollment, right? So getting someone to do what we want them to do, which is become our customer or our client. Yet the key part there is for their reason, making sure that it's for their reasons. And in order to know their reasons, we have to ask what their reasons are, understand what their reasons are, and make it about them. So I love that. Now you shared all that, which I love. So one step further, how do you then take, what you talked about and do it organically through word of mouth, through your community, through your warm market? Like how do you become known in your community?
I think another thing that we haven't talked about yet is an email list. So that's really powerful. That's something I've used from day one in my business. And for years, my list was not that big, but it was very intimate and very, like, it was an engaging audience. And so that's another piece that it's great to be on social media and have followers, but ultimately we don't own Instagram. We don't own TikTok. We don't own Facebook. And so tomorrow that following could be gone. And we know that your number of followers does not equal what's in your bank account. And so for me, I've always had an email list. And so that's been a good way for me to connect and stay engaged, even though I haven't been as active. There's been seasons of my life where I don't email as much as I want, but at least at the end of the day, I still have people on that list that will contact me. Hey, I heard you speak 10 years ago, or, oh, I've been, reading your emails for the last 7 years. And then all of a sudden they're a client, right? This happened. And so it's still also recognizing that's a very important aspect of a business, is to still have that database, if you will. And I think that another piece, people often ask me, okay, how do the referrals come in? And I think you have to get ahead of it on the front end. And I know for us, we ask our clients up front, hey, what would be a wow experience for you? And we do our best to knock it out of the park. We can't, as coaches, the client is doing so much of the work. You're facilitating a process. And ultimately, though, if you can be selective on the front end of who you work with, and then be very clear on how you're going to support that individual and make sure that you are working with committed people, you do get some really jaw-dropping results. And those are like walking billboards for you.
Yeah.
They want to tell people about what they're doing. And so that's a really big piece as well.
Hi, I'm Tanya, and this is Julie, and we are the founders of Coach Core, your all in one solution for building and scaling a successful coaching business.
At Coach Core, we provide you with everything you need in one place. You can house your courses, manage memberships, run email campaigns, and create stunning websites and funnels, all with our easy-to-use platform.
And it's not just about the software. We offer built-in coaching and mentorship, helping you implement best practices from certified NLP practitioners and story brand coaches. And that's just scratching the surface of what's inside.
And that's why we're excited to sponsor the Entrepreneurial Elevation podcast with Kelly Beveridge. Kelly is a thought leader who inspires and elevates entrepreneurs worldwide.
We believe in the power of community and continuous learning, and this podcast is a fantastic resource for any coach looking to truly grow their practice.
So join us on this journey. Tune into the Entrepreneurial Elevation podcast for insights and inspiration, and visit Coach Core to transform your coaching business today.
Coach Core, your path to coaching success.
I love what you just shared about being selective. So I'm curious what your mindset is around this when scaling business. So would you recommend, and maybe it depends on the business and who you're coaching or the situation, yet I'm just sitting here thinking as you're talking, even about the email list, like what was coming to mind is like quality over quantity. Yet I'm also thinking of scaling the business, and who I want to work with nowadays is higher quality people. Yet what's your thought on that? Is it you, because you really could take the one approach where you're like, I'm just going to accept anybody. Like I'm building a business. Like I'm just going to take anybody who walks through my front door, or I'm going to be selective. I'm going to be specific. I'm going to be, for lack of a better word, picky in who I choose to have in my business. What is your guidance on that?
I think the quality quantity question, of course we want quality, but we have to be realistic. We need quantity as well in the business, like in the business. But I think that, I know for me, and probably motherhood helped me with this, but there was a time where there were people coming in the business where I started to say, I don't know if these are our people. And that was the time where I had to scale back, because I was like, and if my energy starts to feel off, I've learned to really listen to my intuition. And I think that during those moments, it was like, oh no, for me, we're going to be picky all day long because it's too costly. Like how I show up as a wife and a mom, I care too much about what I do. So I will be thinking about client results. I can't just turn it off. And when I'm with the kids, I want those interactions to be positive, to be uplifting in the business. And that includes my team as well as any clients. I can't have any off energy. And it's not perfect. You just have to get ahead of it. You know what I mean? And so I think that for me, I would all day, every day be like, yes, be picky, be selective. You also have to consider when you're in the helping space, if you have to drag somebody across the finish line to be a client or a student, what do you think it's going to look like on the fulfillment side? Like it's going to be hard for that individual to change. So I'm not in the business of convincing. I'm there to facilitate the process. And so if somebody is ready to change and they're looking for that support, yeah, I'm here. But I can't care more about your life than you do. I can't be pushing you to create change. You've got to want it. And I think that also creates a bit of exclusivity. It creates waiting lists sometimes. And so that's another positive thing that can happen in the business when people realize, oh, she doesn't work with just everybody. He doesn't work with just everybody. That's a good thing in business.
Yeah, I agree. And also too, like the client's results are a reflection in some way of our business models. And so I think the way you talked about like being really clear on who you want to attract is a piece of that as well. And then coming from abundance. This is when we talk about it's a mindset game. It's that if we turn people away, the right person is going to walk through the door. So being open to that abundance mindset, that there are a lot of people out there looking for what you have to offer. Even just speaking to the audience, whatever your business is, whatever your service is, whatever your product is, there's people looking. And it's just a sifting and sorting to find the right people, right? Where it's a fit both ways. Where it's a fit both ways. I agree. And it's probably how, correct me if I'm wrong, you're able to work part-time and make full-time income because you're attracting and aligning with the clientele that also allows you to do that because they're willing to pay you, they're getting results. And you know what I found is when people are willing to pay more, so let's say higher ticket prices or higher end clients, they're the ones who actually you don't have to chase to do the work. They're internally inspired to go out and get the results. So there's also that part of it too.
Yeah, definitely the skin in the game concept is really important. You have to have skin in the game. And we find for sure our clients that invest at the highest level, they're not messaging me every 2 seconds, right? Like they're very motivated, and my coaching or consulting calls can be very short, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and they're on with what they need to do. And because I've seen that over the years in my business, and we charge a certain amount and there's a level of investment, it attracts a certain type of person. And I think that also another thing to be said is like how you show up is also what you attract. And so for me, I've made it comfortable to make uncomfortable investments. So I've normalized investing in myself. And so I've paid top dollar for different coaches and consultants. And I'm that client that's kind of like, I'll pay the money and I'm just like 1-2 questions and I'm on my way. I'm not bothered. You know what I mean? And so then I think because I've normalized that in my own life, I attract those same type of clients. And so you become the clients that you attract, like it starts with you, right? So the type of client I am, that shows up in my business. I don't know if that makes sense.
But no, it made tons of sense. Like, I'll give just a simple example because I have a service as well where people are paying me money and I don't want to have to chase people for money. And so I make sure that nobody ever has to chase me for money. I'm the one who's like, here's the money. What is it? How much does it cost? I'm urgent with paying for the services that I'm acquiring because I want that to be cyclical, right? Like I want that to come back to me, just as a small example of that. Right? So be the client that you want to have, be the person that you want to attract 100%. So what would you say, I know you're really principle based, when it comes to success, what would you say would be the top 3 success principles that you have?
I think in today's day and age, coming out of the pandemic and everything that's been happening, I think the first one is slowing down a little bit to cut out the noise. If we don't have any practice on a daily basis where we can, whether it's prayer, meditation, like something to quiet the mind, I think that's the most important piece because we can get on that hamster wheel. We can get in that go, go, go culture and we almost lose our ability to hear our own voice or to have that discernment and direction. And I think that that is critical. So I'd say the first one is sort of like slow down. And it's something I've had to do multiple times in my life to be like, okay, hold on a second. Because I can get going and when you have to be able to pull back at times, especially in this world of busy culture and so much information. So I think the first one would be to like stop, slow down, quiet the noise so you can actually think properly. And I think the next one from that place, if we were to feed off of that, it's about doing the inner mindset work and like really seeking the truth. I believe that so many people, we've all been there. You can easily get deceived by a limiting belief, by not expanding your mind. And so we can run our entire lives based on a belief that's false. And so if we're not committed to slowing down so we can seek out the truth and do the mindset work around, okay, why do I do what I do? Right? These are things that are very important to work on the mind, how we think, how we process things, what triggers are we having, right? So that's the second piece is doing the mindset work, I believe. And then third, I would say take action, which I think maybe me 5-10 years ago, I would say that would be the first tip. But now it's, yes, take action, but we have to be strategic. We can't just be all over the place. And I think that's, again, coming out of this season of learning motherhood, I have to be intentional. I have to recognize I do have a limited capacity. And so I have to be very strategic with my action, but you have to be in action. We can't sit and talk about it all day, read books, do all the mindset work. We have to, as you say, jump in the pool. We have to take action. So I would say that.
Oh my gosh, I love those. And okay, so being strategic, taking action. So going back to your story, what motivated you to then become a business coach and mentor that helped other people specifically to scale their business to multiple 6 figures? What caused that decision?
That is a great question. I was pregnant with my daughter. And so then I was about to have 2 under 2. I call her my little fire child because there was a drive in me when I was pregnant with her. I don't know if it's because she was a girl or I don't know what it was about, but I was very driven to scale the business for the first time since I started my business. So in year 1, I was like, okay, let's go. Let's replace my income. And I was focused on scaling the business. But then I wasn't even really thinking about scaling the business until I was pregnant with my daughter. So this is before the pandemic. And being pregnant with her, I reached out to a few mentors of mine to say, okay, what do I do? People that were running bigger businesses than mine. And that's when I knew this advice, but they're like, okay, like it's time to niche down. Like you help a lot of people in health and relationships and money. Let's pick one. And I think what really supported me in getting into more of that kind of money, business, wealth space was recognizing that I had the honor and blessing and privilege of not needing to, like I could still be with my kids. I didn't have to stop working. I didn't have to go back after a mat leave. I didn't even take a mat leave, like 3 kids in a row. But of course, I didn't work 30, 40 hours a week. I was, so that whole experience of going through motherhood, I think made me appreciate my business on a whole new level. And I think that had me inspired to support other people to build something like that. And I think a lot of people, I was engaging with moms and play groups, and they're like, oh, I have to go back to work and my mat leave's over. And oh, what am I going to do? I have to put my kid in daycare. And I didn't have to do any of that. I was still at the park with the kids, hop on a Zoom line. My husband and I just figured it out. And so even to this day, we're both part-time. He's part-time in his business as well. And we don't claim to say that it's easy, but I think that I enjoy supporting other people to expand their mind that it is possible. You do not need to settle for a job or for a business that has you going crazy. There's another way. And so that's my point.
No, I love it. And so, okay, I have a question because I'm still focused on this fact, because I think a lot of people would love the lifestyle of working part-time and earning full-time income. And everybody that I start to coach with, I'm like, what are your goals? They're like, ooh, that would be so amazing. Yet it obviously doesn't just happen. So what would you say are a few fundamental strategies you and your husband have put in place so that you have been able to design your life in that way?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind, I think, there's some strategy there for sure. So I've always been in the high ticket coaching space. And so I think a lot of people say high ticket, low ticket, like what do you charge? And we do charge a premium for our coaching. And I think that takes the pressure off. Would you rather go get like 100 clients, or would you rather get one client at 10 or 15K? So when you are in that higher ticket space, and for me, that I've been in the high ticket space my whole entire career, it just takes the pressure off, because one sale or 2 sales, somebody else might be hustling to make that amount of money over the course of 4 to 6 weeks, but you make it in one day by having one paid in full high 4-figure or 5-figure client. And so that's just a bit of a strategy piece. And my husband's been in the consulting space as well. And we love those clients that are willing and ready to invest at that higher level. We love the engagement, the work that we do with those individuals. And so that's the first piece. I think people can spin their wheels, especially being new in that low ticket space. To make a sale is to make a sale. Most people are doing the same amount of work. It's like, why not sell at 4 or 5 or 8K versus $40? It's like, how many clients do you need to work with at $40 to get your first 10K month? And so that's the strategy piece that I would say has been in place really since the beginning with me in my business. And it's to your point, I've attracted certain clients and I love working with these. They're great. They're great to work with. So that's from a strategy standpoint. I think, again, going back to the mindset standpoint, I think that you do need to be very intentional and on yourself, working on your belief that it's possible. And like you said, the boundaries are really important as well. And I don't claim to say that it's easy by any means. I've been probably part-time for about 8 years before I was even married. And I remember looking ahead and saying, oh, if we get married and we're having kids, like, is this lifestyle going to work for me? I don't think so. I started to scale back. And so I've had a practice at this. This 8 years in the game of really pulling my time back from the business. And there's been many weeks where I'm like, ooh, 40-hour week would be great this week. Like, my business needs me. But I remember and go back to those principles, like, nope, that I'm not available. And so again, it's sacrifice. You have to let certain things go. I say that's another mindset piece. There's certain standards. I don't like to drop my standards, but there's certain things I've had to, that's not getting done. That would get done if I was working full time, but that's not getting done, or it's not getting done. And I'm going to get back to this person later. So there's a lot of ways that I've had to give myself grace and just constant learning and letting go.
Because I know you're a high achiever, Helen, right? And I'm a high achiever too. And I feel like high achievers really struggle with the concept you just talked about, like letting go, allowing it not to be perfect, all of these things. Yet this is the growth we're talking about. It doesn't mean our standards go down when we allow that. It just means our standards for ourselves are going up, or our family, or our other values. And you can still have that and conversation. Yet this is what we talk about when we're talking about growth, right? It's like willing to really change some of our innate beliefs and ways of doing things and what we've been stuck on for a long time, right? That to be successful means you have to be working like this and it has to be perfect. And you've got to have this high achiever mentality, and a high achiever mentality looks like this. And it's all about hustle and it's all about achievement. And so it's interesting hearing you speak, because I feel like I'm coming on your heels and you've been practicing this for a while. So I'm actually getting excited. So I'm curious, because like you said, you've been doing this for about 8 years now, practicing. What are some common challenges other people come up against?
Yeah, I think the one is the myth that we can do it all ourselves. And so one thing that I didn't share on that last question you asked me, outsourcing. So some people say, Helen, how do you get it all done? And I'll correct them. I don't. Done. So I have to use contractors, in my home. Yesterday, somebody came in and cleaned my home. And it's not always that way, but it's just recognizing there are simply not enough hours in the day. And so you have to pick and choose where you want your energy and your time to go. And I think that early on, I really felt like I can do it all. I got it. And then I can still show up and read books to my kids at night. And you recognize my energy is not quite the same. What can I outsource here so that I can be more present with my kids at night at bedtime? And so we've learned, my husband and I together, how can we be very intentional in the home? I have him to thank so much because we are very clear on who does what in the home. We have great communication. We've had to outsource things in the home. We had a nanny for 1 year, but then we decided, nope, we got this. We'll find. So it's learning, right? Maybe we don't have a nanny, but we have somebody come clean, or we maybe use a food delivery service for a season. Okay, now we're not doing that. I hired people in my team. At one point, my team I think we had 8 people, which was a lot, but that was a season of me really developing systems and structures in the business and recognizing I cannot do all of that. And so I think that the number one thing that people are scared to do as a new entrepreneur is hire, or they feel bad about outsourcing in their home personally or in their business. Oh, I should be able to do that. There's that inner critic voice. And it's just because you can do it doesn't mean you need to be doing it.
Yeah.
Because we're always working at a limited capacity to some degree. And so we have to manage our emotions and our energy, and we have to be willing to take risks, hire coaches, hire a team, hire an assistant. You got to start somewhere, because you can't possibly do it all and figure it out at the same time. You have to have systems.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, so a few more questions just to start to wrap up. Yet on the topic of scaling, what would you say to like a brand new business owner who's just getting started? What is some good advice for them when it comes to creating a vision for their business and then just taking the first steps? What guidance would you give somebody who's just starting off?
I'm going to sound biased because I'm a coach, but I'd say hire a coach. Like, definitely don't do it alone, especially on your way to your first 6 figures. Like, it's just, my goodness, there's so much mindset stuff that happens and doubts that happen on your way to your first 6 figures. It's like, absolutely reach out, find somebody who's doing what you want to do and seek that out. Pay for the support, pay for the ability to have those timeframes be collapsed, because that can be a very lonely journey. And so my first piece of advice would be hire a coach, seek out mentors, get around other entrepreneurs, normalize success. These are things that have to happen because it can be a very lonely road. And you need to have the support and the environment. We're a product of our environment. And assess, do an inventory, audit your relationships, friends, family. Are these conversations serving me? What's getting in the way of my belief? Working with a coach or a mentor and having accountability and structure in place.
Yeah, I love that. What do you think is different from going from starting to your first 6 figures and then from going from 6 figures to multiple 6 figures?
I heard somebody once tell me that you can hustle your way to 200,000 or 250,000, And I think that's true, but somewhere in there, like you've got to have the systems in place and the team. And so I feel like you could hustle your way to six figures, but it's so much mindset work and belief and confidence. That's what I've learned from working with coaches, new coaches. I'm recognizing working with them that it's 90% belief in themselves that they can do this. It's so much, teaching your mind that this is possible. So there's a lot of mindset work to be done to get to that first 10K month. Once somebody's there, it's okay, we arrived. Let's now look at, okay, do these systems make sense? Is this offer scalable? Am I set up? Am I the type of leader that I need to be to grow this business? And so I think it becomes still mindset work beyond six figures, but also there we get into even more strategy and systems and structure and team and all of those things to scale beyond the six-figure mark.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Is there anything else, like any leftovers or anything else you want to share about scaling your business that you want the audience to hear?
I think I would say get comfortable being uncomfortable. Don't look for convenience. Don't look for comfort. Don't look for the right time. You have to find a way to normalize discomfort, because ultimately when we stretch ourselves, that's where the growth happens. And fall down 7 times, get up 8. I think that proverb is right. Like, it's be committed to the growth and the learning. It's all here in the mind.
Yeah, awesome advice, Helen. Okay, so I have a couple questions for you. What would be your definition of success today? So now 2024 version of Helen and family, what would you say is your definition of success now?
I would say winning the day. It's like daily habits. I think the big thinker of that I used to be all about think big, and I still am, but with little kiddos and a family, I think it's about having those little wins in the day. Like, how connected am I with my husband, with my kids? Did I do the little things today? Did I spend time in solitude? Did I pray? Did I exercise? Like, all these things that it's hard to fit it all in. Those are the wins. It's like the mini moments throughout the day. And I think I have my children to thank for that. They've slowed me down. They've made me more present. And so it's really about being clear on, okay, what's a win today? What does this look like? And then continuing to build that personal integrity account and making sure I can go to sleep feeling at peace every night. And the money is important too. I get that. But I'd say for this season of my life, it's really about family and my own health and having the energy to show up present for relationships that are important to me, which includes my business as well. But yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Win the day. And what would you say would be 3 things you would advise somebody? So my podcast is called Entrepreneurial Elevation, Unleashing Greatness Within. So what are 3 things somebody could do to unleash their greatness?
I think the first part is like a relentless commitment to personal growth, because your business is simply an extension of you. I've seen that personally. I've seen that with our clients. And so the commitment to be relentless about learning about yourself. So this is a game of personal awareness, understanding why you do what you do. And so that piece is just there 100%. The second piece, I would say, in addition to learning about yourself, learn the game of entrepreneurship. So as I shared, reach out, find mentors, find coaches, get in the room. I think you and I used to hear that a lot, right? Get in the room and normalize what it is you want to create. And you've got to be intentional. Sometimes people say, how do I do that? And how did you find your mentors? I've had some amazing mentors, but that's on me. I had to seek them out and get in the room. And that sometimes meant paying money, hopping on a plane, putting myself in uncomfortable situations. So seek out the mentorship, the direction. And then the last piece, and I hate to go back to this part, I shared this already, but I would say responsibility mixed with action. Take responsibility, which is like the ability to respond. Let's not blame the economy, your spouse, your kid, like none of the excuses, right? This is you. Like, take responsibility, 100% responsibility for your life, and do something about it. All your feelings and emotions, that's fine and whatever. But at the end of the day, the world rewards action, not intention. And so you could have everybody has dreams, right? But who is going to actually be ambitious enough and focused enough to be able to eliminate the distractions and move and close that success gap? And so definitely taking uncomfortable, messy, imperfect action over and over again.
I love that message. Oh my gosh. And okay, so what would you say to the listeners? Last question. What's one thing they can go and apply into their life after hearing this episode today, this week, something they can go and do right away?
I would say do something very uncomfortable. Like we all know the things that are easy to, oh, I don't need to do that. But deep down inside you, that's going to move your business forward or it's going to move you forward as an individual. Go do it right now. Not next week, not on Tuesday or like literally in the next hour, do the thing. So maybe it's post the post. Maybe it's reach out to the mentor. Maybe it's reach out to a friend for extra accountability. Like just do the thing immediately before you talk yourself out of it. And so maybe it's taking a cold shower, doing a cold, I don't know what it is. It's different for everybody, but do the thing so that you can normalize doing things that are hard.
Yeah.
And that there will be some momentum there and you'll be able to start normalizing that and you can apply that in your business as well.
Yeah, I think that's such great advice. Normalizing the uncomfortable, right? It just gets easier and easier. And more importantly, it gets us closer to the things that we want when we're willing to do that. I love that. Helen, I just appreciate you so much. Where can we find you? I know there's going to be listeners who have gotten so much value from what you've talked about. If they want to know more about your coaching or what you have to offer, where can people find you?
You can go to our website, which is my name, helenmariefox.com, HelenMarieFox.com. Or you can hit me up on Instagram, which is also my name at Helen Marie Fox. And of course, you can always email our team, just hello@helenmariefox.com. And we'll definitely connect. We'd always love to engage and support you in any way that we can.
Absolutely. And I'll put all that information in the show notes too, so that people can find you easy. I definitely recommend reaching out to Helen. She's amazing. I've seen her in action. She's a person of integrity. You do what you say you're going to do, Helen. It's just so exciting to see you transition into being, the last time we talked, you didn't even have kids yet, I don't think. You have 3. And so it's just awesome to see your transformation and just your life change. And I've had the privilege of meeting your husband as well. And you guys are just such a loving family. You're both amazing entrepreneurs. You add so much value to the community. And I just know that you're both phenomenal parents. Even though I haven't seen you in action, I just know that about you. It's just so great to just see where you're at in life and know that you're also making an impact with other people in their businesses, running their livelihood and continuing to do that. So just thanks for being you. And thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate the invite. I appreciate you, Kelly.
Awesome. Oh, I loved having Helen on and just learning from her and hearing about her transformation and journey to her version of success, which now is being able to spend her time, energy, and focus on her family and her kiddos with 3 young ones, right? I think under the age of 6. And at the same time, not at the expense of her business success, actually having her business continue to grow and thrive and get into the 6 figures and multiple 6 figures. And so just some really great insights and tips there for anybody looking to scale their business and design their life and make sure that their values are being met. And so really great call today. Thanks, Helen. And for all of you who are listening, if you enjoyed today's call, please go and like and download. You can go over to my YouTube channel, Entrepreneurial Elevation, and subscribe. And just appreciate you all showing up here, following the podcast and listening. I always just hope you get value you can apply into your own life and your business. And just once again, thanks so much. With love, greatness, and success, it's your host, Kelly Beveridge.